Coming up on Arirang News, South Korea renews its commitment to reconnecting its railways with those of North Korea. Today is the second anniversary of that commitment being made in the historic Panmunjom Declaration. President Jaein calls for South and North Korea to move forward with their cooperation to achieve peace, not only on railroads, but on the coronavirus and more. And more than half of South Korea's listed companies that have reported earnings so far have beaten market expectations for the first quarter, led by chip makers and firms making sanitary products. It's 5 p.m. here in Seoul. Thanks for tuning in to Arirang News. I'm Devin Whiting. Today is the anniversary of the Panmunjom Declaration, an agreement reached by the leaders of South and North Korea at their summit 2 years ago. And for the occasion, the South Korean government held a ceremony this morning, renewing its commitment to reconnecting the two sides' railways. The project aims to reconnect the line between the city of Gangneung and Jaein, a city near the North Korean border. The two cities were once linked by rail, but that was severed 53 years ago. At Monday's event, Seoul's Unification Minister Kim Yeon-chol said the project will revitalize the Korean economy. He said that connecting Gangwon-do province with major metropolitan areas will foster tourism and upgrade the country's transportation infrastructure. The South Korean government is pledged to cooperate closely with local communities with the aim of starting construction by the end of 2021. President Moon Jae-in said today that the COVID-19 crisis could be a new opportunity for inter-Korean cooperation. In a meeting with his top aides, Moon said that it's the most urgent task and that he will seek realistic and practical ways to achieve it. His remarks come on the second anniversary since the leaders of the two Koreas held their first summit at the border village of Panmunjom. The president noted that peace does not happen overnight, saying that the slow progress in implementing the Panmunjom Declaration has been due to international constraints, not a lack of commitment.
우리는 현실적인 제약 요인 속에서도 할 수 있는 일들을 찾아서 작은 일이라도 끊임없이 실천해 나가야 합니다. 코로나19에 공동으로 대처하는 협력에서 시작하여 가축 전염병과 접경 지역 재해 재난 또 그리고 기후 환경 변화에 공동 대응하는 등 생명의 한반도를 위한 남북 교류와 협력이 적극적으로 이루어지길 바랍니다.
President Moon also vowed to make efforts to link the railroads of the two sides and to transform the demilitarized zone into a peace zone. He also pledged to push for reunions of separated families once the COVID-19 situation stabilizes. And in preparing for the post-corona era, Moon expressed hope that the two Koreas can work together and open a new chapter of peace and prosperity on the Korean peninsula. The president urged the South Korean people, meanwhile, to exercise continued caution despite the slowing number of new cases, while vowing efforts to make the country's response to the virus and its day-to-day quarantine a global standard. South Korea reported 10 new cases of COVID-19 on Monday, the 10th straight day in a row with fewer than 20 cases. Total infections now stand at 10,738. Of the new cases, 7 were imported, with 5 detected at quarantine checkpoints. The country reported 1 more death, raising the death toll to 243. The number of people who've recovered is now at 8,764, meaning a recovery rate of 81.6%. The South Korean government says it'll announce plans by early May on how it's going to get grade school students back into the classroom now that the country seems to have the coronavirus under control. In a briefing Monday, Prime Minister Chung Se-kyun said the idea is to resume regular classes while observing social distancing. Students in their third year of middle and high school who have key exams later this year for the next step in their schooling will go back to school first, followed gradually by students in other grades. One question the authorities are working on is what kind of precautions schools can take, like physical distancing among students. The government's going to use the money it would have spent on school lunches to help farmers by buying their produce and giving it to the families of some 3.6 million schoolchildren. This was agreed today at a meeting of the Education Ministry and the ruling Democratic Party. The produce will be packaged and delivered free of charge to households in 8 cities and provinces, or those households can choose to get gift cards to buy food online instead. Farmers have seen their orders in March and April dry up because of the school closures. Despite the COVID-19 outbreak, more than half of the South Korean companies that have reported earnings for the first quarter so far have beaten market expectations, and 40% managed to beat expectations by more than 10%. Jaein has more.
60% of the major companies in South Korea that have released their first quarter earnings reports have posted better than expected profits despite the coronavirus outbreak. According to Yonhap Infomax, the financial arm of Yonhap News Agency on Monday, 35 companies on either the main KOSPI or secondary KOSDAQ indices have posted their Q1 earnings reports, and 60% of those firms saw their operating profits exceeding market consensus. 40% of the firms, including Samsung Electronics and search platform Naver, had operating profits that beat market expectations by more than 10%. The world's second-largest chipmaker SK hynix also exceeded market expectations by over 10%. It posted the largest earnings surprise with operating profit of about $650 million in the first quarter. That is a whopping 58% greater than the market average estimation of about $412 million. An expert says sales of server products offset lower demand for mobile devices amid the COVID-19 outbreak.
Better than expected operating profit was largely due to increased demand for server products, including products needed for remote working and classes, online shopping, and games.
LG Household and Healthcare also posted better than expected sales and profits. First quarter sales for the company's home and personal care division, which produces sanitary products, increased about 19%, and operating profit for the division was up 51%.
We have catered to the customers' expanded needs for sanitary products. The growth in earnings was driven by the introduction of various sanitary products, including hand sanitizers, soap, and wet wipes.
However, experts say that concerns remain as South Korean companies' first quarter reports don't show the full effect of the outbreak. Jaein, Arirang News.
Time now for an in-depth look at the market news, and for that, I'm joined on the line by Dr. Yang Jun-seok, professor of economics at the Catholic University of Korea. Professor Yang, thank you for making time today.
Happy to be here.
Well, oil prices continue to stabilize, albeit at these historic lows. Wall Street was a little higher last Friday, and Korean stocks had a good start to the week. What's the story in the global markets?
Okay, well, I think the global stock market basically reflects how the region is doing as in regards to how the COVID virus is going in their region, as well as what their economic outlook for the near future looks like. So the United States, it was down earlier in the week, but it came up later in the week as some of the regions are looking to open up. The EU and Nikkei, it went down toward the end of last week. That, I think, partially reflects, especially in Japan, the situation getting somewhat worse. China and Hong Kong, well, they were mixed. Hong Kong went up a little bit last week. China went down a little bit last week. And for Korea, luckily it went up today, but at the end of last week, it went down, partially because we're just beginning to realize that the exports in the second half of the year might be hit a lot because of the global recession due to the coronavirus.
Right. Well, another asset set to go higher, possibly. Bank of America calling for gold to hit $3,000 an ounce in the next 18 months or so, driven by the Fed's reflation of the economy. The Fed can't print gold, it says. So what do you make of that, and what's your outlook?
Okay, well, it's a possibility. I'm reluctant to rule anything out so far because the COVID virus has made surprises almost normal. Things are going to levels that we have never seen before, or we have seen only in the Great Depression. So I won't say that it's not impossible, but it seems unlikely at the moment. Right now, it's near the 7-year high range of about $1,750. the market is expecting the gold price to break the $1,921 barrier that they had in 2011, right after the global financial crisis. That certainly seems possible. And during this unstable times, people do tend to move to commodities and metals like gold. But oil, it's not a good place to go into right now because the demand has fallen so much. So it's understandable why the people are going to gold investments. But still, $3,000 seem a little bit too high for me. And also, at the end of February, we have to remember that the price of gold, as well as the stock market and the bond market, all fell because all the major financial institutions, as well as companies, were seeking safe assets. And surprisingly, they did not go to gold. They went to U.S. dollar. They went to cash. Partially, it was because of accounting purposes, but still, I think if there is going to be a global recession due to the coronavirus, then there's a question on whether even gold can perhaps be seen as a safe asset. So 3,000, I think, is, I wouldn't rule it out, but I think it's going to be pretty hard.
Very interesting. Well, in the next few days, we'll have from the BOK data on consumer sentiment. What's in store this week, Professor Yang?
Okay, there's also the business sentiment report from the government, as well as the weighted market interest rate. Those are all going to tell us what the recession in the second quarter, as well as the second half of the year in Korea, is likely to be, and especially the weighted interest rate, along with credit expansion and reduction report that will come out in the next few weeks. So it'll tell us how the credit crunch or the money market is going to be doing, credit market is going to be doing. It's crucial that the firms remain alive, and that means we have to make sure that credit is going to these companies without too much of an increase in interest rates. So we'll need to keep an eye for that. Foreign statistics, the most interesting one is going to be U.S. GDP first quarter estimate. The Congressional Budget Office has estimated that the first quarter will fall by 0.9% and second quarter will fall by 11.8% quarter to quarter, and then recover in the third and fourth quarter, but we'll have to see whether that estimate will turn out to be correct. Also, the Fed is going to have an FOMC meeting, interest rate meeting on Thursday, Korea time. That'll be interesting to see. Well, the Fed cannot lower the interest rate any further, but we'll have to see what kind of alternate policies they're thinking about. And then usually this is not big news, but it is going to turn out to be a big news for the next few months. The U.S. oil reserves, the amount is going to be announced on Wednesday, and depending on how much oil there is in the U.S. official reserves, that'll have a major effect on oil prices.
We'll be looking forward to hearing from you about all of that. Thank you, Dr. Young, as always.
Thank you.
Now, South Korea will be providing financial aid to developing countries struggling with COVID-19. Finance Minister Hong Nam-gi said Monday that the country will offer them more than $400 million through Korea's Economic Development Cooperation Fund by the end of the year. It'll also postpone some $110 million in debt repayments from 26 low-income countries. The minister said some 40 countries have recently asked South Korea to share information about its COVID-19 quarantine model, and said Seoul will use that model to strengthen economic cooperation with those countries. With schools closed in South Korea, fruit, vegetables, meat, and eggs that would have been used to feed students have been going to waste. To stop the waste, local communities are introducing drive-thrus to sell the produce to residents at big discounts. Jang Tae-hyun reports.
With no school meals being served, these vegetables were going to waste. So, regional governments have set up drive-thrus in parking lots like this one, so people can buy them without having to worry about the coronavirus. People can buy eco-friendly veggies without getting out of their car. This will protect them from making contact with others. These packs include vegetables like sweet potatoes, green pumpkins, and cucumbers at a 20 to 50% discount.
We're working with 31 cities and districts in Gyeonggi-do province on this new distribution channel. so we can sell farm goods without risking infection.
There are no commissions at the drive-thru, so farmers get 100% of the sales. The Korean government is implementing programs like these and providing other support to 9 cities and provinces to help the farmers and their communities. It's not only a bargain, customers are able to spend the relief money they've gotten from the government.
경기도 province and Yeoju city have given us around $160 on the Yeoju Sarang card. With that, we can buy farm produce and help the local community.
Because of the COVID-19 crisis, starting with virus testing, drive-thru products and services have taken off in South Korea and could very well last beyond the outbreak. Chang Tae-hyun, Arirang News.
And that brings us to the end of this newscast. Thank you for watching. More live news coming your way at 7 p.m. Korea time.